Hello and welcome if you're new to my channel, and if you're a subscriber, a warm welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to be recommending a number of afternoon tea establishments that are located either in Europe or sub-Saharan Africa. And they're either formal, so your luxury hotels, informal, your tea rooms, gardens, cafes, and they're either offering a traditional afternoon tea or their modern day take. I'm Anesu Sagonda and I manage a luxury lifestyle management business in London. My content is largely educationally focused and geared towards people who are typically new to money or keen to explore alternate mid-lux or super brands that are a little under the radar but still very much weighted on quality. Before I kick off, I'd like to start by defining this term afternoon tea. It's a British tradition that started in the early 19th century when there was a big gap between lunch and dinner. Dinner would have been served around 8 p.m., lunch would have been noon, and it was introduced at 4 p.m. as a light snack that would tide you over before dinner. Nowadays, that light snack comprises of sandwiches, cakes, and scones. In the United Kingdom, it's referred to as afternoon tea. But outside the United Kingdom, it's high tea. But high tea is a totally different British tradition. It was a working class meal served at 5 p.m., very heavy meal which consisted of either potatoes, pies, casseroles, served on high tables, and a heavy meal to tide you through the evening. But a number of establishments in the United Kingdom are referring to afternoon tea as high tea because that's the term tourists are familiar with. It's more enticing and it also sounds fancier to say high tea. But when I'm referring to afternoon tea or high tea, it is the quintessential English tea, which is the scones, the cakes and sandwiches. To kick off, I'm going to start with a country that I love dearly, the country of my birth, and it's Zimbabwe. And I'm going to be focused on the capital city, Harare, and I'm going to be offering a number of options, both informal and traditional. The traditional, you're in very good hands. It does not get any better than the Meikles Hotel. It is Zimbabwe's premier luxury hotel. It is British, a British-style hotel, so you're in very good hands. On the informal side, informal tends to be very much cake, coffee, and tea. One of the hot beverages with tea. And Zimbabwe's political economic struggles have been well documented, but on the back of that, people have become incredibly resilient and inventive when it comes to alternate income streams. And one thing that there's a lot of in not just Zimbabwe but also South Africa is converting part of your residential space into a commercial enterprise. So for example, a retail store or a restaurant. And there are two in Zimbabwe where they have converted their back garden into alfresco dining space. Vanilla Moon and Bottom Drawer. The service is amazing. The food, very good selection, well made, cooked with a lot of love. Home prepared food doesn't get any better. And then you've got well maintained gardens, the sunshine and the greenery. A little further in, outside of the town centre, is Sam Levy's village. There's a little gem in there called Pistachio. Amazing cakes. And then my final recommendation is actually Cafe Nush. So if you'd like the coffee shop option, but it's not as commercialized, a good spread of cakes, you want to sit indoors, have meetings, possibly plug in your electrical gadgets, then Cafe Nush is a very good choice. Moving out of Zimbabwe onto South Africa, Johannesburg and Cape Town. Johannesburg, in the center of town, the Four Seasons Westcliff. Nothing beats the superb food, spectacular views. Still in Johannesburg, the Fairlawns Boutique Hotel, a wonderfully intimate hotel, fantastic for a date. I cannot recommend highly enough. You can get lost in the grounds, a lot of little alcoves. Just go out for a walk and just enjoy the greenery and the fresh air. And then if you want to drive a little out of Joburg, get away from the hustle and bustle, then I'd recommend the Palazzo at Monte Casino. It's a little away from Monte Casino, so it's away from the hectic, busy environment there. And it's great for food and just rest and relaxation, just unwind whilst having tea away from Johannesburg. If you'd like to drive a little further away and even make a day of it, if not a couple of days or a weekend, then in Magaliesburg, I'd highly recommend the African Pride Mount Grace, a country-style mansion that has a spa. You can go for walks, enjoy the tea, just unwind and have a very good time in the privacy, the tranquility, the fresh air. Nothing beats the African Pride. And then moving down to Cape Town. Cape Town, it's either the hotel option or the wine farm. The hotel option there, a couple of recommendations. Almost a bucket list status now is the Mount Nelson. For the grandeur and for the tradition, it doesn't get any better than the Mount Nelson, also the Cape Grace. Two different hotels, very good quality, but different styles. Mount Nelson is incredibly popular, very English style in terms of the ambience, the feel, the service, and the array of cakes is fantastic. It can be a bit, the service can be a bit rushed because it's just so popular and there are a lot of people that want to experience afternoon tea at the Mount Nelson. The equivalent at the V&A is the Cape Grace, a fantastic place, impeccable service. The food is amazing. You're in very good hands. And then also another little gem, but with a modern take on afternoon tea, is the Hotel Silo, a new opening, ultra chic luxury hotel that has totally changed the benchmark and reinterpreted the meaning of luxury. It arguably gives you the best views of Cape Town, and it's on top of the Zeist Museum. And it is a fantastic show-stopping place to be seen, to enjoy, and take up what is luxury in its personified state. And then moving on to the wine farms, going into Cape Town and not either going to a wine farm or experiencing some of the amazing wine is an absolute travesty. Two I highly recommend. Their wines have been elevated to fine wine status. The first one is Tokara, absolutely to die for, views of the mountain, together with the amazing food, the wine, the service is on a very high level. And then the other one is the Delaire Graff, having tea out in the gardens, beautifully manicured lawns. Nothing beats that. And then moving away from South Africa to East Africa. In Kenya, the traditional take would be two English-style hotels. The first is the Hemingway. Hemingway has been voted the best hotel in Nairobi on a number of occasions. Incredibly friendly staff as well. It's owned by a British entrepreneur, Richard Evans, so it doesn't get any better in terms of being in very capable, knowledgeable hands of the British tradition. And I'd also recommend another traditional hotel would be the Fairmont, the Norfolk. A more modern take, a couple of places. The Serena Hotel, a tall building which gives you fantastic views of Nairobi. And the other place would be Zen Gardens, which is a residential restaurant in Kitisuru. It is an amazing place to spend the whole day, particularly somebody who works from home. I often go there and start my mornings in the cafe, have breakfast in there, maybe breakfast meetings, and then move to one of the outside restaurants. They have a couple of them, have lunch at one of them, and then champagne, cocktails, or drinks with clients later on in the evening at a different place. You just get a different vibe, and it's always outside, the fresh air, the greenery. Service is fantastic. If I may, I'd love to recommend their passion fruit cheesecake. It has a crumbly base. The mascarpone is just the right level of sweetness, but what really makes it stand out is just the passion fruit coulis, which has a very subtle tang to it. It all goes very well together. And then moving away from Kenya and across to West Africa, there's the signature Eko Hotel, very well-known hotel. It's arguably the most luxurious hotel in Nigeria, very well-known in terms of the quality of the service, the food, the drinks on offer. You can't go wrong with it. And then two new openings in Nigeria which appeal to a very much different audience. So the first one is the Tea Rooms, Lagos. That's for the young, the hip crowd who want the Instagram-friendly pictures. It's modeled along the lines of Elan, which has exploded in the United Kingdom in the last couple of years and doing fantastically well. It's a hotel, it's a cafe that is just designed for the Instagram pictures. You go in to be seen, to look beautiful, and they adorn you with the appropriate background for you to do that. The Tea Rooms Lagos is exactly the same for the very young, very hip crowd. And then another new opening, but for a more mature, sedate audience, is the Flowerstalk on Victoria Island. But I found with a lot of my Nigerian clients is they prefer to entertain in-house, so they'd rather have their friends at home. They have the privacy and more relaxed environment. And there are two very good bakers I'd like to recommend. The first one is Salt Lagos, and the second one is Hans and Rene. Hans and Rene, also very good, does cakes, but they do a little bit more. They do a lot of fun pastries, macaroons, donuts. They also do ice cream, so you're spoiled for choice, and there's a lot of variety, particularly if you're catering for the younger age group. And then moving away from Nigeria onto Europe. in Europe, I'm going to kick off with France. And the French are more coffee drinkers than tea drinkers, but tea is very much on the rise in France. And the French prefer the more refined, delicate tea that's either scented or flavored, and they're more inclined to go for the black tea, so they won't add your milk or lemon like the British do. And there are a number of places. You have the luxurious hotels. You're spoiled for choice in Paris. I mean, they define what is luxury and how service should be provided at the very highest level. My top recommendation would be the Four Seasons again, George Cinq, and that's for the sheer size of their tea menu. It's absolutely phenomenal. Nothing can beat it. You have such a huge selection, and every time I go there I try something different and I'm never disappointed. Another great hotel would be the Le Bristol Paris. They do the best chocolatey macaroons, and also Le Meurice, which is a lot of the decor in the dining hall is inspired by Salvador Dali, who used to visit the establishment, and so the decor and the name have been inspired by him. So away from the luxury hotels, a little more informal, where it's more coffee, possibly macaroons, which are very big in Paris. Macaroons, I'd recommend Carrette any day. And then Pierre Hermé, Pierre Macolini, and then La Durée, if you'd like some Instagram-friendly pictures. And then another great place to stop over in Paris is a place called Angelina. Angelina, you have to order the hot chocolate. It is the best hot chocolate you will ever drink in the whole of France. It's incredibly decadent, it's very smooth, and it's called Chocolat L'Africain, and it's made from a fusion of African cocoa beans. And I would also like to recommend a different alternative. There is a store, a chain rather, called Mariage Frères. And Mariage Frères they're one of the oldest tea brands. And in France, they don't actually grow tea, but they import tea of the highest level, so teas and tea blends. And Mariage Frères is arguably the best when sourcing tea, so it's either loose tea, prepackaged, or the tea bags. And I would highly recommend their Marco Polo if you want a black tea. There's also the Wedding Imperial, and that is Assam leaves with chocolate and caramel notes. Anything you buy in there, you cannot go wrong, because it's tea at the very finest. I'm a huge green tea drinker, and I have bought the best green tea, which I will recommend again and again. There's two, the Geico Supreme, and also the tea bags, the green tea bags with vanilla and flowers in them. Incredibly smooth tea, very lightly scented, and there's no aftertaste. Amazing green tea, Mariage Frères. And then moving from Paris onto the United Kingdom, you're absolutely spoiled for choice. The tradition started here, afternoon tea after all. But when it comes to afternoon tea, there's no establishment that leads the space as well as the Ritz Hotel. The Ritz Hotel is officially a bucket list destination when it comes to tea drinking. It's a place you go either as a treat, for an occasion, or just to experience tea at the Ritz. It's tea at the very highest level. You get the pomp, the grandeur. You are pampered. You have amazing cakes and scones that are just to die for. And it delivers time and time again. And you do have to dress up. They do not accept jeans or trainers or things like that. And people do wear hats. As I said, it is an occasion place and bucket list after all. There are also some very good five-star hotels, very similar. The Dorchester, same family as Le Meurice. So you have a standardized product in terms of the high level of service, and also the products that they serve, the food they serve, the tea, and the accompaniments for the afternoon tea. There's also the Connaught. I'd also like to recommend Claridge's, and another amazing place is the Savoy. The Savoy is a must if you're a big tea drinker. They have an amazing selection of teas. You'll be absolutely spoiled for choice. And then a slightly different alternate to your conventional afternoon tea. A number of five-star establishments. There is the Berkeley Hotel. They do an amazing fashion tea where they work with a fashion producer. In the past, they've worked with Chanel and Dior, where they produce little pastries and biscuits that have the fashion printed on top of the biscuits. There's also the Rosewood Hotel that works with a number of chefs, and they produce art-inspired pastries. So it's inspired by big heavyweight British giants such as Hearst and Banksy. Amazing little cakes. The experience is just second to none and worth trying. I'd also like to recommend slightly smaller places off the beaten track. There's Maison Orceline, which produces the big thick books. They have an amazing cafe. You have afternoon tea with champagne, your tea, and also they do little amazing nibbles like foie gras bites with the scones, so a different take to the sandwiches. And then a couple of other places, if I may. One is a place called Amorino, which is doing fantastically well. It does gourmet ice cream, and they do afternoon tea. So they do cakes made from ice cream. So you choose the flavors you like, and then they shape it into little patisseries. And there's also another place called Maitre Choux. Maitre Choux is to die for. They do arguably the best chocolate, the best eclairs you'll ever try. They're very big on the quality of the ingredients, and you can taste that. That really comes through when you eat their eclairs. But they're very well made and the best eclairs you'll ever have in London. So tea, coffee, and eclairs at Maitre Choux. London, you're absolutely spoiled for choice. But if you let me know what you like, I can always recommend accordingly. But wherever you go, you'll be always in very good hands. As always, thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, and don't forget to subscribe.